Hey there, welcome. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is a talk radio program, so there will be talking on the show today, a little bit by me and Debbie, and hopefully a lot by you. I'm Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani and you. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we have a topic today that is going to, I think, touch a lot of hearts, Debbie, but also people will have some things to share about this.
Have you had to put down your pet? Have you had to say goodbye to that wonderful furry friend that's in your home? It's time. You know, they lived a long, beautiful, great, loving life in your home, and something happened. They got sick. They just wore out. They got tired, and it was time for them to go. And you have to make that decision when you consult your vet. If it's ever really the right time to put your pet down and how that feels. You know, were you grieving about it? Did people accept that you were going through the grief process? Did they say, oh, come on, you can just get another dog or cat? Were people, did they show, sympathy in the proper way? Because let's face it, our pets, God's creations, they're just beautiful. They're unconditionally loving, wonderful creatures that bring us a lot of comfort and love. And we're talking about that today. Jerry has a beautiful little pet named Duke. I have Gracie. She's amazing, and she's 14, just to let you know, and Malteses really only live to be 14. So I'm facing that as well. And we're talking about that today. So if you've had to make that difficult decision about your beautiful pet, call in today at 833-288-3986.
We were getting feedback and some stories even about this topic yesterday, so we know that the phone lines are going to be busy. So feel free to jump on one right now at 833-288-3986. I wrote in the synopsis on the Take2Show.com website, most of us have heard the tongue-in-cheek line, dogs or cats or birds or reptiles or people too. Well, they're not human, of course. They don't have souls. They don't have immortal souls, but they can add so much to our lives. I'm thinking of a lonely person who lives by themselves and has their dog or their cat or another pet for companionship. Families, often they make it a family thing, Debbie, where they go to the shelter or they go wherever they go and they all together decide on what animal they're going to pick out. We hear of animals doing, really amazing, heroic things sometimes. And then, as Debbie said, that day often comes, and it actually will come for all of them when we have to make that heartfelt but very difficult decision about putting them down. And maybe it's to get them out of their pain sometimes, Debbie, because a lot of people find it really hard to do that. But when an animal is in a lot of pain, say they have a disease or something, it's really the compassionate thing to do.
Well, they can't tell you how they're feeling. They can only, demonstrate. If they can't get up, they can't, eat and do the things that they need to do as a dog or a cat. And so it's really hard. It's a difficult decision. It's always good to have a good vet. I love our vet. She's amazing. She's very compassionate, and she's just wonderful. But Jerry, you talked about loneliness, and that is so true, that our pets bring us, companionship. But let's face it, it's also, they say, it's healthy in a relationship to have a pet. It can help the relationship. It can help the family. It's a beautiful thing what pets do for families. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Go ahead.
Okay. I hope it's not from Gracie. The number is 833-288-3986. And I think we can learn a lot about God in a conversation like this as well, because God, of course, is the creator of all things. And my little dog Duke, sometimes, I'll be home from Mass or something, and I'll say, Duke, I just went and received Jesus. And Jesus, that's the same Jesus who created you and who created me, and
Aww.
So I think we can learn a lot about God, and God gives us these great gifts, these favors in our lives, I think anyway.
Right. I know some of you may think I was getting emotional because our dog is getting up there in years, but it's actually Arizona allergies. It's really tough with the weather going up, down, cold, hot, cold, hot. Today it's hot today, so here you go with the allergies. But we do have one open phone line if you'd like to talk about the experience of owning a pet and then having to say goodbye to that beautiful that beautiful pet that you have grown to absolutely love and depend on in many ways. I mean, let's face it, when you come home from a long day of work, a long day's work, and you open that door and that little furry thing comes running up to you and is so excited to see you. Come on, there's nothing better than that. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. So let's talk about it. You know, God wanted us to have a life and to have it to the full, and that means to enjoy all of God's creations. And that includes our pets, those that we take into our home and make them part of our families. So the number to dial is 833-288-3986. And by the way, you're talking to a person right now who I did not grow up with any pets. My mother said, I've got 6 kids, that's enough. Okay, we're not going to have any dog. Now, she grew up with dogs, okay, but we weren't allowed to, right? Okay, Jerry, but when I got married, that's the first thing I did was I brought a dog into the house because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to experience this that I should have experienced as a child. How about you, Jerry? Did you have pets as a kid?
We did. We had a hound dog, a female hound called Lady, and we had a male dachshund we named Coco. And they were outside dogs. They rarely, if ever, came into the house, but they stuck around the house all the time. And yeah, they were just great friends. I remember if we would driving down the street, they both, especially Lady, would just hightail it to try and follow us. And when we finally got out of range where she realized I can't keep up with them, she would just turn and go back home. But they were beautiful, beautiful parts of our family. And my dog now, Duke, spell it D-U-C, he is just a precious little gem. And I have actually caught myself a couple times, Debbie, thinking about that day. He's only 4 years old, so hopefully that's a long ways into the future. But I've even found myself thinking about that reality that one day that decision might have to be made, you know. And Duke was abused in many ways, I think. And so I've made him promises so many times. I said, Duke, nobody's ever going to hurt you again. Oh. And then I just see myself, you know, maybe having to put him down and thinking, you know, hopefully I'll have been able to keep that promise to him.
Yeah. Well, you've been a great owner. I mean, you treat him like gold.
Well, he's a good boy.
Yeah, that's right. He's a good boy. That's right. Marty has informed me that when Gracie goes off to doggy heaven, quote unquote, we're not going to get another pet. So I'm trying to convince him. So maybe, folks, you can give me some ideas on how I can convince my husband to get another dog. But we're talking about your pets today and those difficult decisions when we have to say goodbye. Please call us at 833-288-3986. This is your show. We want to hear from you.
Join me next time for a special interview when I'll speak with Father Joseph Fessio, S.J., about Joseph Ratzinger's book, Western Culture Today and Tomorrow.
Ratzinger shows us what our culture really is, negative aspects of it, and what the positive aspects are of it, and how we as Catholics especially have to maintain it, preserve it, and purify it.
EWTN Bookmark with Doug Keck brings you the best Catholic authors, Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
Every day, men are bombarded with messages that to be a real man, we have to buy this, do that, or act this way. Men, are you listening? You're already a man, and you're manly, because that's how God made you. Pope John Paul II's Theology of the Body reminds men that just by possessing a man's DNA, you are encoded with God's spiritual and physical gifts of masculinity. Yes, you can always work to become a better, a godlier, stronger, or gentler man, but no matter how badly you fail or how much you struggle, nobody can take your manliness away from you. Masculinity is a God-given gift, planted deep within each man, and while it can always be developed, you don't have to earn it, and nothing you do can make you lose it. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. And we have our show team in place. Michael Birchfield, our producer. Jeff Burson is on social media. Ryan Penny, I think, is on the phones. Correct me if I'm mistaken about that, but he's always does his usual great job. And, you know, this show and so many others are podcast by EWTN, which posts 11 podcasts every weekday and over 60 during the week. So you never have to miss out on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie or your other favorite EWTN programs, and they're all absolutely free. Just go to EWTN.com/radio/podcasts to listen and subscribe today.
Okay, we're talking about your pets today, and first up is Joyce in the great state of Nebraska, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Joyce. Thanks for starting this conversation off. Welcome and Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year. Thank you for taking my call. Yeah, I had a dog a few years ago. In fact, it was when I moved to North Dakota. I actually live in North Dakota, but I had a dog at that time. It was the first pet of my own. And she was awesome. She was so attached to me and devoted. But when I got to North Dakota, I started taking her camping with me, and she started getting really edgy. And she didn't really like my father. And one day I saw her try twice to bite my father, and thankfully she didn't nail him, but
Did we lose you, Joyce?
I'm still here.
Okay.
I have a tough cell signal right now. So
okay.
I'm in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska. But anyway, she tried twice to bite my father. And logically, I knew that the problem was only going to get worse. And so I had to make the difficult decision to put her down.
Mm.
And whenever I did, the wife of the veterinarian was his vet assistant, and she bought me a pin with a little tiny dog with wings and a halo.
Oh.
And she gave me that pin.
Oh, how nice.
And it was difficult. But it was a decision that had to be made, and I couldn't justify having a dog that could get mean with people.
Right.
And she had been my best.
So, Joyce, she was still, I guess, at a young age or she was still healthy. Nothing else was wrong, I presume.
She was still healthy, but we think that part of her ancestry was a breed that is known for aggression,
mm-hmm.
and I understand that training a dog is more about training the people too. I understand that better now than I did then. And there's no training my dad. And if strangers would walk up while we're camping, then there would be no way to train them.
Right.
And so I figured it was probably better to go this route than it would be to have somebody get hurt by her. But it was hard. It was hard. She was my camping buddy. But I think part of her protectiveness was whenever we started going camping out on the prairie, quite often it would be around either a lot of strangers or I had one extreme or the other, around a lot of strangers in a very crowded camping area or way out in the middle of nowhere where the only thing we were surrounded by was coyotes. And both scenarios made her really tense and protective.
Have you gotten another dog since then, Joyce?
I have not, because I also sat down since, and I wanted to thoroughly get over this hurt first. But I've sat down since and made the conscious decision that I really don't want the expenses that go with a pet right now. And I jokingly say that I have a pet rock in the truck. So, but yeah, it was very difficult for quite a while. once in a while I'll joke with my husband that I need to get a dog so I get out and walk more often, but he's allergic to dogs, so we probably aren't going to have a pet.
What do you think, Debbie?
Well, it reminds me of, it's that you're in a difficult position, Joyce, especially because of, the dog being aggressive with your dad. My former husband and I, when we were first married, we had an attack-trained dog that we inherited from his sister. And this attack-trained dog that was trained, supposedly, only attacked our friends. It didn't attack strangers. In fact, strangers would come to the door and the dog would just sit there. But my girlfriend would come to the door and this dog was ready to go through the front door and attack her. And so we were faced with a difficult decision as well. In our case, we had the option, which for us was really it worked out for us. We were able to transport the dog back to the original breeders, and they had a farm in Missouri, and this dog was able to be more docile in a sense, not have all those added threats around them. But I can see where you have a creature like that, Joyce, that probably can't handle those kinds of interactions, and it's really difficult. It's really difficult for those types of dogs. Yeah. But I checked on our dog once and I had heard that he was still very aggressive. I think some breeds, just tend to go that way. What do you think, Jerry?
Oh, I don't know a whole lot about that, but I think you're right. There are some that are that have that sort of in their DNA and are bred for things like that. So I didn't know that about your dog way back when, Debbie.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, may I just say something real quickly?
Sure.
I knew that we needed to do something with the dog. We needed to deliver the dog back to the breeder because I was emptying the dishwasher and the dog came around the corner and growled at me like it was going to attack me because it did not like me clanging the plates. And that's when I said to my husband, okay, it's either me or the dog. Because that just didn't work. Because as we all know, you probably empty the dishwasher a couple times a week.
Right.
Anyway,
Joyce, thank you for your call.
Joyce. Be safe driving, Joyce.
Yeah, and enjoy.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy that beautiful countryside you're in there in Nebraska. All right, take two with Jerry and Debbie talking about have you had to put down a beloved pet and just how that was emotionally and psychologically. Did you get another dog, another cat, another pet? What kind of pet do you have? Or did you have to put down because of old age or illness or something? 833-288-3986. Mary Lou is next in Rochester, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Mary Lou. Good to have you with us.
Hi, Mary Lou.
Hello, Jerry and Debbie. How are you? God bless you. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I made the story of the most wonderful relationship of a pet and the owner, my sister, had this darling little Pekingese. And I've never seen anyone in all my years treat their pet like my sister treated this dog. And this little dog did everything but talk. She was just adorable. And she was almost 16 years old, and my sister and I took her in on Christmas Eve and put her to sleep. Now, my sister is having a very hard time with this. But she calls herself a killer, and she can't seem to get over the emotional distress of putting her dog down. Now, I try to tell her that, yes, it was God's creature, and she's okay, and she had such an attachment to this dog for 16 years. And every year, on her birthday, she wore the same tiara, put a little cake on a plate, we got down on the floor, lit the same candle, and sang happy birthday. So she was just an adorable little creature, and my sister missed her so much. So I tried, say through prayer for my sister, but she's just having a terrible time with this.
Well, we'll pray for her too, and the ways that she treated the dog are actually very beautiful. I mean, we can tend to humanize our dogs in a certain sense. Obviously, the key is to realize that they are not human. Ultimately, they don't have the immortal souls. I mean, we can lose sight of that because of how important our dogs are to us and how attached we are to them and they are to us. But we will definitely join in praying for that. And I don't know. Maybe she could get another animal of some kind, but I don't know that immediately takes away the sting or whatever. But I just definitely will pray that she doesn't look at herself as a killer, because this is definitely not the case, Debbie.
Right.
Right.
Well,
right. I know that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mary Lou,
Maybe
please.
there's someone else out in radio land that feels the same way. He had such an attachment to a pet, and I know how these attachments can happen. And I love this little dog. Everybody loves this little dog. Mm-hmm. So, we just have to keep on praying that my sister will, not see herself as this.
Right. Well, Jerry, pull up the email from Helen. I think this is really good what Helen shares. Maybe, we should all take a lesson in this, because it seems to work for Helen, and that's pretty cool. Do you see her email?
I do. Helen is in Idaho. Hi, Helen. Good to have you listening and emailing again today. She says, hi, I'll make this quick because I'm driving to work soon in a snowstorm. Pray for my drive. We will do that. She says, I have Australian Shepherds. They all live to old ages, 17, 18, 19. They die of old age. When an older one dies, I get a puppy. I'm on number 6 now, Sam. Very high energy, almost a year old. God bless you, Helen in Idaho. And she sent a picture of Sam. Absolutely beautiful. So that's
sweet.
Yeah.
And you never know, Mary Lou. I often think about this all the time. When our dog, we had to say goodbye to our second dog. She was 17 years old. The first thing I did is I took the kids to all these pet stores, and I took them to the zoo. I took them to get around animals again, so that we just didn't. It helped us through kind of the grieving. So I don't know if there's some things that you can do along that line, but just to help your sister, and we'll be praying as well. So thank you for sharing today with us about your sister's beautiful dog.
Bye.
Pets are beautiful. They really are. They really enhance our lives. They make them fun.
I was trying to think of the word, one of the words that describes my dog Duke. I was trying to. He's very touchy, and the word was tactile that I was looking for, which means very loves to be touching. And I know a lot of people will poo-poo sleeping with your dog and so forth, but he'll be on my bed to start the night, and he's just leaning on me in one spot or another, and I can barely get to sleep when he does that, and I wake up and he's just pressed himself in against me on another leg or arm or something like. It's really beautiful. It's precious. But I just think, come on, Duke, I got to get some sleep here.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So Duke has a good night's sleep, and you probably have a bad back by now. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
But if Duke's happy, we're all happy.
Yeah, right.
No, that's what we do for our pets. They are really cute. You have to admit. I mean, some of those faces, I grab my little Gracie. Her face is so cute. I just want to squeeze her. All right.
Well, let's see. We're going to go to Tammy in Katy, Texas, listening on EWTN.com. First-time caller to take 2. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
Really
Doing
well.
How are you?
Good, thank you. I'd like to elaborate a little bit on what the previous caller was saying about her sister. Mm-hmm. And my feelings aren't as strong, but I do have feelings about, am I doing this at the right time? Is it right for me to euthanize my pet, or should I let them die naturally? And I, too, had to euthanize a pet and it was a Maltese, Debbie, and it took me 5 years to quit feeling guilty about euthanizing my little dog, who was old and suffering. Am I right to worry about it morally, and or is it okay for me to do this? Is what I'm saying.
Well, I think absolutely. The decision of when to put a dog down is a very difficult one, obviously, or any animal for that matter. We had a comment from Alejandro on YouTube. He's watching the YouTube channel, Tammy, and he asks, is it ethical and God's will to put down a pet, or should we wait until God decides to call them? And I think it can be an act of mercy. We are required by moral law to not abuse any creature in the world, any animal or anything like that. So we know that we must treat them with love and respect and dignity and feed them and take care of them and so forth. But when it comes to if a dog is aged, like Debbie said earlier, can't get up and walk. I have a friend whose dog was just so disabled and debilitated, blind, couldn't see anything, just basically laid in one spot on the floor all day, would go to the potty there in that spot, and was Debbie, like you said, you can't really tell if they can't tell you if they're in pain, but you can see that they're in a situation where it would be perhaps an act of mercy to go ahead and put them down, and as difficult as that might be. I don't know, Debbie, if you have any thoughts on what Tammy was asking there.
Well, and Tammy, a lot of people say, where is it in the Bible? How are we supposed to, treat our pets and the God's creatures? Nowhere does it really explicitly say, a directive on how to actually approach this. What I would say to do, just to relieve you and to not have you have that kind of burden or that real, deep guilt of it, go to your priest and ask your priest and go and have a trusted vet, maybe even go to a second vet, just to make sure you're making a good decision for you and that you feel right about and that you feel is ethical in all ways. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with that. But hang on, Tammy. Jerry might have some comments. Hold on. We'll be right back talking about our pets.
Get the Catholic news perspective on today's top stories. EWTN News Nightly. Clear, concise, Catholic. Tonight, 9 Eastern on EWTN Television and Radio.
St. Augustine gives us tremendous insight as to why we should pray. He says this: why God should ask us to pray when he knows what we need even before we ask him may perplex us if we do not realize that our Lord and God does not want to know what we want, for as God he cannot fail to already know it. But rather he wants us to exercise our desire through our prayers, so that we may be able to receive what he is preparing to give us.
Father John Riccardo.
Again, the only reason that you and I are here is because he wanted us to be here. If he didn't want us to be here, you wouldn't be here. How do you know God loves you? You're breathing right now. I don't feel like God loves me. I know God loves you. You're here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care. Even if you've ignored him your whole life, even if you're the most heinous of sinners, he loves you. He may not be pleased with you. Because he loves you, he won't let you stay that way. Because he loves me, he won't let me stay the way I am. But the fact that I'm still here tells me that he loves me, whether or not I feel it or not, which is very comforting because I don't feel it a lot. So I know that from my experience of existing right now. But even after the fall, even after Adam and Eve turn their backs on God, rebel against God, God shows himself, he reveals himself. We're talking about revelation, which gives us access to the Father. He reveals himself by repeatedly breaking into people's lives.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Later today on Catholic Answers Live, a couple of great guests. Mark Brumley, Carlo Broussard. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, and we thank the affiliates for carrying the program. And Tammy in Katy, Texas is on the phone with us, curious about how do we know when it's the right time to put down a dog or another pet. And again, I hope that's Tammy, if you want to comment on anything that Debbie or I said first, I'll throw it back to you if you have anything.
No, I think you helped me when you told me that, it is our moral obligation that we take care of these pets and make sure that they live a good life because they are God's creatures. So that helps me when I'm trying to decide, are they still living a good life or are they in pain or in misery? So I think you helped me a lot, and I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Tammy. Thank you for the call, and please feel free to call the show anytime. I think your advice was good, Debbie. Maybe if it's really burdening somebody, talk to a priest, but then you said talk to a vet, go to a veterinarian. They can probably tell just by being in the presence of a dog or another animal for just a few minutes, what their condition is and so forth. But yeah, I mean, we're called to be stewards of all of creation, and that includes, the non-human living creatures and our dear pets especially. And I think, Debbie, we need to make a distinction too. If a human person is at that stage, elderly, in pain, suffering, so forth, it is never morally acceptable to euthanize them, to end their life. Okay, but it's different for an animal.
Right, because we're caretakers of them, and the Catechism talks about that we're to humanely treat God's creatures, and with that means if they're suffering, if they're absolutely horribly suffering, that would not be a humane thing to do, is to keep them in that suffering. The pets I'm talking about.
Sure.
So there's all talks about that. What do you think, Tammy? Any final comments?
No, I think you've made me feel better.
Oh, good.
That I made the right decision in the past, especially with my little Maltese. Mm-hmm. It was just like the caller before said, it was very hard to give up, and I've had a little bit of guilt with that. Mm-hmm. But she was blind and she was old, and I knew it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we put our 17-year-old beagle down, Taffy, the day that we all said goodbye to her, my former husband, myself, and the kids, she knew. She kissed us all goodbye. She knew, and the vet even said she couldn't wait to go to sleep. She was so exhausted. She was. And I know I know in the movies it sounds really great to see that your dog all of a sudden just goes outside and goes to sleep, and that would be the greatest way for it to happen. They just drift off to sleep, in the middle of a beautiful field, but it doesn't happen that way. And so, unfortunately, we do have to go through these sad times. And I also think, Jerry, it gives us an opportunity to really grow in an understanding of how precious all life is, and what it means, and how to value what's in front of us. We can learn so many valuable lessons from going through some of these very sad times.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, Tammy, for the call. We appreciate that. Rita is next in Austin. We're going to stay in the great state of Texas. Rita in Austin, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, welcome to Take Two, Rita.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yes, last October I had to put down our little Shih Tzu dog, Sally, and it's hard to describe, because it was like she knew how you felt, and she was always so comforting, just holding her. And I don't know if people know about Shih Tzus, but to me, they're the most loving dog, and they love to be held like little babies and stuff. But she had been sick for over a year, and we spent a lot of money taking her to the vet, to the specialty vet hospital. And I wanted to be sure we had done everything we could. And so she had been in and out of the hospital like 3 times during the last year. And in the last few months, 2 times, pretty close together. And the last time she was in the hospital, the vet pretty much told me, there's nothing else I can do for her, and I want you to take her home, and you'll know when to bring her back to euthanize her. And she said, I don't think it's that much time. But in between the last visit, we probably had like 5 extra months from the treatments that we were giving her. They weren't certain of her diagnosis, but they thought she might have had cancer in her intestines. But she was too weak to do any surgery or anything like that, so we just kept treating her with whatever we could. But it was super hard. But I knew that I had done everything that I could to help give her more time, and I knew that the last day that she couldn't do anymore. She couldn't get up anymore. She couldn't drink water, eat, and I knew it was time. But I miss her a lot. I did
sure you
get
do.
her cremated, and I have her little ashes, and that helps. Just
Sure.
feeling like I have part of her here still.
What a beautiful story, Rita. Thank you for sharing that. And you touched upon another very important factor here, and that, as you said, Sally was hospitalized several times, and the money that you were putting out to keep her alive. There definitely comes a point with regard to that, where a line has to be drawn, and it's unfortunate, but a family you cannot jeopardize, go to the point of jeopardizing your finances in order to pay for your necessities of life. And I've heard of people spending a lot of money. In fact, we see, almost over the top, some rich and wealthy people. Actually, I remember the story of somebody, Debbie, you might have to help me out with this, who left, her entire will to her pet or something like that. But
wasn't it like Leona Helmsley or something?
Somebody like that, yeah. But this is an important point too. Where's the line drawn with regard to how much financial outlay you do for your pet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But the thing about it is the other thing too is having these discussions right now that we're having. I think it's really helpful, because let's face it, when we get into autopilot in our lives and in our homes, right? We can take for granted, every person and creature that is in our home right now, right? And this is why we're having conversations like that. Let's appreciate the present moment. So right now, if you do have those wonderful, furry friends around you, maybe it's a great time to treasure the moment, so that, because someday, like Rita, like you're saying, you still miss, you miss her very much. And that is true. We do miss them when they're gone. And it's a tough thing. I know that's why my husband does not want us to get another dog, because he says, I can't handle it. He goes, every time you look at Gracie, you start to cry because you're going to miss her. And he goes, I can't handle it. I'm not going to go through another 14 years like this. It's true, though. Right, Rita?
Yeah, I haven't decided, if I'll get another pet, because I just feel like there could never be another one like Sally, because she understood me. My daughter got her when she was in college, and she had gotten her from a lady who found her. She was I used to say she was a homeless dog, because I work in that field in social services. And my daughter told a lady that she wanted the dog. She hadn't even met Sally or anything, And so I feel like she helped my daughter through a real difficult time in college. And then when my daughter moved into the dorm, she couldn't keep her. So then I got Sally, and I took care of her. And then she stayed with me ever since then. So she just brought so much love and comfort to both of us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing about her. I mean, see, this is how God's creatures, really enhance our lives and make it better. And yes, Jerry, Take Two family just weighed in and said it's Leona Helmsley that left, is it $4 billion? To some, I guess she left it to benefit dogs or animals. We're getting some text messages coming in. So you were right, Jerry.
Well, I thought it was actually bequeathed to her dog, but maybe I'm mistaken about that.
I don't know, but it's a lot of money going to benefit dogs. Wow.
Well, yeah, if that's the case, that's absolutely beautiful. Okay, let's see. Barbara is next in Longmont, Colorado, listening on the Catholic Radio Network. Hello, Barbara. Good day.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. Bless you for having this conversation.
Sure, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Very
yeah,
well.
perfectly.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I've got you on speakerphone. Yes, we're sitting out here on a snowy day, and thank you so much for this conversation. And if I could just share about the greatest dog breed in the world is little corgis. Everybody who's got corgis out there will agree. And our story is we've had two, and the first one our son begged for a couple years, and he just said it had to be a corgi, and we lived in the mountains for about 9 years, and we got Gabby was her name, and she didn't live very long. She got a sudden illness at about age 11, and we had to put her down a month after that, and we did everything we could, but it was just to share, it was a beautiful experience. The vet handled it so well. Our whole family gathered together the day that we took her up, and it was very tragic, and it's like your heart is being pulled out because there's such a part of your life. I mean, just imagine daily walks in the forest, with these two dogs, and just such a big part of your family. Christmases, holidays, and trips, and our dogs have traveled with us to so many states and things. They go everywhere. And yes, we've been like the crazy cat people, dressing them up during the holidays. So these precious little creatures that God has blessed us with, we're so grateful, and we especially our second corgi, we call her the ambassador of happiness, and I'll briefly get to her story, but Gabby was just so special. She brought so much love to our house that we just wanted another one. We wanted a companion for her, because we did live in the mountains, and we initially got her to teach our son responsibility and caring for her, and you know how that goes. The parents kind of end up doing all the doggy chores. but Gabby, she was just so unique, and it was so heartbreaking to lose her so abruptly. But we did have her cremated, and when we met that day at the vet, we put a, call it crazy, but I put a brown scapular on her that I wear and said prayers to St. Francis and St. Roque, who's a patron for dogs. And I have this prayer for a dead pet that we found. And it says, Eternal Father, we bring you our grief in the loss of our pet and ask for courage to bear it. We bring you our thanks for our pet, her name, who lived among us and gave us freely of her love. We commit our friend and companion, Gabby, into your loving hands. Give us eyes to see how your love embraces all creatures, and every living thing speaks to us of your love. Amen. So we sent her off as best we could as a Catholic family, and thanked God for, I'm sorry to get teary, for having her in our lives. And I think the suddenness of her loss was what is still in our heart, because we just didn't really understand it. But anyway, fast forward, now we've got her little sister with us, Kitty Marie, and we just found out last spring she was having some issues with reverse sneezing, and several months later and a lot of tests later, we found out she has a rare form of nasal cancer. So we've had her treated in radiation therapy and all this stuff, and she's on a plethora of medications, and she is the joy of my heart. As a person who grew up in the country and had many pets, she and I have a bond that is just one I wish to carry with me if I should be so lucky to go to heaven. Mm-hmm. But she is so, we are so close. I'm doing puppy hospice, I call it, because she has 4 to 12 months left, and that is something that's available to people that are struggling with having to put a dog down, is hospice care, if that is an option. But she is our special ambassador of happiness. She has marched in a couple corgi parades up in Fort Collins, and she attracts so many people with her just joyful little bounce and happy face, and we've had so many conversations, and she's just a magnet for children, and just a way to spread God's happiness. And that's why we call her the ambassador of happiness, because she's just a joy. And that's kind of what we're holding in our hearts. And each day we have with her, we're grateful, and we thank God for this tremendous blessing in our lives, and how much joy momentary joy she brings to people of all walks of life when we have her out in the public, and she's able to spread that love, that love that only a pet can give you, unconditional love and happiness. Forgive me, I talked too long, but these are our girls. We've lost
First thing I wanted to say, Barbara, is don't apologize for getting emotional, because that's something probably every pet owner has experienced at some time or another, especially at the loss of a pet. So don't have to apologize for that. But as you were talking, I was just thinking of the blessing. The church actually, has a right of blessing of pets, of animals. And I think that should tell us a lot about, how the church views pets and their role in our lives, and how we're to care for them and the relationships that we have for them. Debbie, I know you've probably seen and probably had Gracie blessed. I actually had I actually had a house blessing when Duke was blessed, and then on October 4th, the Feast of St. Francis. I had forgotten about that, so I took him to the parish, and so he got blessed twice. But that's just a beautiful reality of the church, I believe.
Well, and a lot of saints, they talk about their animals. I mean, there's a lot of that, and I think and a lot of priests absolutely love having pets in the rectory. It brings them a lot of comfort. So, but as you were speaking, Barbara, and I welled up in tears as you were sharing, and I Googled real quickly what a corgi looks like. They are so cute. The puppies are so sweet. I can see why you absolutely love that breed. And I love how you called it, how you said ambassadors of happiness. I'm always going to remember that. That is really beautiful. You know, God bless you for sharing today. I think it helps us. And as you were speaking, our dear friend Glenn from Nebraska, he weighed in and he said, the years of enjoyment and companionship are worth the few weeks or months of grieving their loss. Very true.
That's beautiful.
Yep. Thank you, Barbara. Jerry, real quickly, may I just quickly just highlight Catholic Connection? We must do that because Teresa Tomeo is doing a great job keeping us all up to date on what's happening in news from a Catholic perspective. So Catholic Connection tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time on EWTN Radio. Join Teresa and her guests, as I just said, the Catholic perspective on the day's news and newsmakers. Very important. Stay very close to Catholic Connection. Teresa's doing a fine job, and that's 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Jerry, I'm going to leave it up to you because we have full phone lines and texts are flying in. So what do you want to do?
You're going to leave it up to me. I get to make the decision about a part 2. Is that what you're hinting at?
Yes.
I'd say let's go for it.
Really? Okay, cool. Oh, that's good because people want to share their stories, and I think it's wonderful. We dedicate another day to this wonderful topic. So if we don't get to all of you, like Patty and Maureen and Mary and Donovan and Kim and the others, there's always tomorrow. And Ryan knows that if you are on the line, and tomorrow if you call back, you'll get to the front of the line. That's always a nice added bonus, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. One of the ways you can reach us, by the way, is through commenting on take2show.com. And Molly had this to say, I think the hardest part of pet ownership is making the decision to put them down. When is the right time? I recently was told by my vet that I should consider putting down my horse. He was having trouble walking, and he does have arthritis in his hind leg. I prayed and prayed and cried and cried. I took my time thinking about it, and it turned out my horse had an abscess in both of his hind feet. I'm glad I waited a few days and asked for guidance from God and St. Francis. My horse is 26 and has been through a lot since this happened in November. He's gained weight and is trotting around the pasture with his buddies. God is so good, and it wasn't the right time to say goodbye. I pray that when the time does come to say goodbye, God makes it obvious and easy because it's a big decision and there's no going back. And that's from Molly via the website.
Okay, so I just want to echo what Molly said and just affirm that because similar thing happened to us with Gracie last year with the vet. You know, Gracie has a mass growing in her abdomen, and they wanted to put her through all sorts of tests, and it was a lot of money and to do this. And I said, you know what? How about can we try like the natural approach? And she's not, she's been going strong for almost a year. So isn't that interesting? So sometimes you got to go with your, gut instincts on this, right? Because your pet the best.
Indeed. Let's get to as many of these calls as we can. Today we're going to do a second part of this program tomorrow, so if we don't get you on, we apologize for that, but we do have to make room for Dr. Ray Garendi, who's coming up next, but we'll do a part 2 tomorrow. However, Maureen is going to get on right now in Naples, Florida, listening on the EWTN app. Hello, Maureen. Welcome.
Oh, hi, Jerry and Debbie. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening to everyone's story, and I especially could connect with the caller who mentioned she had a brown scapular. At the time, she had to put her dog down, and I had to do this a similar thing with my Katie. She was a long-haired Chihuahua, and she had gone through a lot in her life, and gave us so much joy. But at the day you have to go in, I had to be there with her. I couldn't just say to my husband, oh, you know, I really had to see her through it. And I had my Divine Mercy in the car. I had a little card of Divine Mercy, and I brought it in with me. And the vet, she goes to our parish too, and it was very hard, but it really helped getting us through and being with Katie at that time. And the week afterwards was incredibly hard because we don't have children, and our Katie was, you know, our girl. And you know what? I'd never give that up for anything. Having a dog, and I know Debbie, you're thinking about what to do in the future if you have to put down your little one. And you know what? When you have time, you let some time go by, and then it's something like I really had to have another dog. It's such a great balance in life, and these are God's creatures, and boy, every day, again, there's so much joy there.
Thank you so much. But I'm going to count on you, Maureen. So when I'm ready, after Gracie departs, I expect you to come from Florida to Arizona and just drop a dog at our front door, because my husband won't allow me to get, he does not want me to get another dog. So somebody has to gift it to me.
Well, that could easily happen.
Exactly.
There's so many, and you know what? Every time in life is different. You know, you think ahead. Well, I can't do this anymore. But my husband and I are older, and so much joy. And then every day we walk with our dogs now, and again, so much joy from God's creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're talking about joy real quickly, Jerry. I just had this visual image, you know, now that I just put it out on worldwide radio, you know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to have like 1,000 dogs at the front door. Marty's going to go, you didn't announce this on the radio, did you?
It won't end. It won't end.
It won't end. Yeah. Jerry, I'll have like a petting zoo or something. I love it. Thanks, Maureen. Thanks for making us laugh. We need to laugh more. You know, our pets do bring us great joy. They really do. And like Glenn said, you know, that enjoyment and companionship is so worth having to go through that time where we have to say goodbye.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad Glenn weighed in on that, and it's really, in a sense, it's not that much different. I mean, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's different in many ways, but when we lose a family member or a friend or something, you know, it takes time, and I'm not saying that, you know, grieving over the loss of a pet is going to be as easy as that or more difficult, you know, but I just think that we have to go through that process, and this just shows how much a part of our lives they become.
That's right. Well, wasn't your little Duke gifted to you by either an angel or God or somebody, because it just landed in your front doorstep, right?
Well, yeah, the decision was made the night before to go to a local shelter a week from that Saturday. It was a Thursday. I did the radio show on Thursday night, decided to get a dog. Friday morning, I did the radio show. Signed off, was shutting the equipment down, and I heard this whining and whimpering inside the courtyard of the house, which has a locked wrought iron gate and a wall. And I looked outside, and here's Duke, and there's no way he could have gotten in there by himself. Somebody had to have obviously dropped him in there. Aww. So after deciding to get a dog the night before, there he was. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think
an
he's
answer
definitely
to your prayers.
A gift from God. Yeah.
Gift from God. Well, and Maureen reminded me when I first found out that Gracie had a mass in her abdomen, we did take holy water several nights, and we rubbed it on her, holy water, and so, you know, that's interesting with the brown scapular, the holy water. It's amazing. But thank you again, Maureen, and Patty and Mary and Donovan and Michael and Kim. Please call back tomorrow. We only have 1 minute left. We're not going to get to you today, but also we'll keep all the social media comments up. You can add to those tomorrow, but you can call back tomorrow and be at the front of the line, and we're doing a part 2 on our pets. Jerry?
That's right, and a reminder, or at least an alert, all next week. It's Catholic Schools Week, so Debbie and I are going to take a different angle every day next week on Catholic schools, Catholic education, grade schools, high schools, colleges. We're going to talk to teachers, parents, students. We want you to think about that, weigh in, listen every day next week as we do a special series during Catholic Schools Week.
Can't wait for that. But tomorrow's part 2 on our pets, so get ready for that to share. And until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day. St. Joseph, please pray for us.
Dr. Ray Guarendi, making a commitment